Modales, adapting driver behavior for lower emissions. Modales is a European Union-funded project running from 2019 to 2022, aimed at reducing air pollution from all types of road vehicles by encouraging adoption of low-emission driving behavior and good maintenance practices. It targets reducing emissions not only from the vehicle exhaust for both petrol and diesel vehicles, but also particle emissions from the brakes and tyres. Reducing such emissions helps improve air quality. It reduces wear and tear on vehicle components, as well as fuel use, so saving the driver money. Modales proposes a user-centric approach by researching, developing and testing a number of innovative and complementary solutions. These include a smartphone app to help drivers reduce their emissions. This will be accompanied by the present short online training session. Heavy-duty vehicles fall under a special vehicle category due to the differences operating a truck in comparison to a car or a light-duty vehicle. A truck is usually driven for long distance and often international trips, and truck drivers are professionals with expertise and usually prior experience on eco-driving and other types of training. Truck drivers have heard of tips to decrease emissions. However, the Modales approach aims to cover a broad spectrum of emission-related driver behavior. The need for a more advanced training course and specialized guidance and technical particularities for operating a truck has been taken into consideration while developing the present training tips. Drivers have to take actions in order to decrease emissions during pre-trip checks and planning, while driving, and by respecting the optimal maintenance practices indicated by the manufacturer. Checking tyre air pressure and regular tyre maintenance such as rotation, alignment and inspections can help you to save money. It can extend the life of your tyres so you don't have to replace them as often. Simple things like checking your tyre pressure to make sure that they are properly inflated can make a real difference in how long your tyres last. Under or overinflated tyres don't wear evenly and won't last as long. For example, a tyre that is consistently 20% underinflated can last 20% less. Checking your tyre pressure to make sure that they are properly inflated can save you money on fuel. Underinflated tyres are one of the biggest causes of using excess fuel. Underinflated tyres have higher rolling resistance, which means that it takes more effort from the engine to move your vehicle. Keeping tyres inflated to at least the pressure recommended by the manufacturer can reduce fuel consumption by up to 4%. Keeping tyres properly inflated can have a positive effect on fuel emissions, the state of the tyres, and safety. When it comes to safety, tyres are one of the most important components of your vehicle. Check your tyres often and also before a big trip. Follow the manufacturer's guidelines on the optimal pressure level. By carrying heavy loads, the vehicle's emissions can increase significantly. More fuel is consumed and more tyre and brake wear is used. The driver should modify the route and deliver heavier loads first at comparable distance. Professional drivers, even if they must drive in a congested area, will often have the local knowledge to find less congested routes to get to their destination. Traffic, sudden stops, accelerations and steep slopes will increase both fuel consumption and emissions. It is always a good practice to choose the most appropriate route before traveling. Navigation systems can provide the best options, taking the traffic and road conditions into consideration. Especially for HGV drivers, distance optimization and delivery of heavier goods first, whenever possible, can reduce pollution. Warning lights on the vehicle's dashboard can be translated as a malfunction which can cause higher emissions. The engine and the oil malfunction lights are the most common indications that in case of a malfunction can increase fuel consumption and emission levels. When such indications are on, check the vehicle in a garage the soonest possible. A daily check would be preferred before starting the working journey, as problems are less likely to occur during trips. Use an up-to-date navigation system to bypass congested routes and avoid idling. An onboard computer may help to save time by selecting the most efficient routes. Use devices such as an onboard computer to monitor fuel consumption. If possible, keep out of congested areas and find an alternative motorway solution rather than driving through the city centre. This might take a few minutes longer, but will reduce fuel consumption and wear on the brake linings, clutch plates and gearbox, all while minimising driver fatigue and reducing the risk of accidents. When choosing a route on the navigation system, have in mind the route slope, the congestion levels and similar factors should be taken into consideration where different routes are available at a comparable distance. Thinking about so many parameters is not easy and requires some effort. However, it can impact emissions a lot. Traffic, sudden stops, accelerations and steep slopes will increase both fuel consumption and emissions. It is always a good practice to choose the most appropriate route before travelling. Navigation systems can provide the best options, taking the traffic and road conditions into consideration. There are several navigation applications in the market that can give options on the fastest or environmentally friendlier routes. When all the other factors remain the same, the route with the least slope and the fewest bends should be chosen. This applies mostly on mountainous areas. Urban environments require more acceleration and deceleration. Driving on highways, the driver can keep a steady speed, avoiding acceleration and sudden braking. Especially for repetitive routes, the fastest and less congested roads are preferable on a daily basis. Resistance from rough asphalt or rough road characteristics in general can increase emissions. A good asphalt road without potholes can lead to less pollution and extend the vehicle's lifespan. Tyres and exhaust emissions can be decreased, while the car suspension can last for a longer period of time. Choose well-maintained roads wherever possible. Guidelines related to driving behaviour for professional drivers of taxi and LDVs are included in the training. The driving behaviour part is considered very impactful on the reduction of emissions, and it has to take the flexibility of professional drivers into consideration. The actions a driver might take to reduce emissions include: the eco-driving mode is the easiest way to improve the environmental impact of driving without changing behaviour or following additional steps. This option is available in most modern vehicles and can reduce emissions drastically by limiting extreme accelerations and high RPMs. This option can work when the truck has this mode installed and it does not interfere in the daily work of the driver. Modern engines generally do not need to be warmed up. Start the vehicle and gently drive away immediately. Prolonged idling increases emissions and wastes fuel. Turn the engine off when idling for more than 30 seconds. Usually, HDVs drive long distances and might face windy weather conditions. The decrease in speed will save emissions and have a big impact to the environmental footprint. It is recommended to increase the velocity before approaching a slope in order not to cause a drop on the slope, which would lead to additional push on the accelerator and higher emissions. Lower acceleration while anticipating the reduction in possible velocity drops due to resistance force, which consequently requires a push on the accelerator and lower load. As drivers might spend enough time in urban areas, frequent stops may happen due to traffic lights, crossings, etc. Some drivers might speed up, but this has to be avoided, especially when the engine is cold. It is important to be aware of the safety issues and the lost impact on total travel time in the city. The vehicle usually emits exponentially when a more extreme driving style is followed, resulting in higher emissions, while this can also be dangerous. Follow the revolutions per minute RPMs, the manufacturer indicates as most efficient, depending on the engine type, vehicle's model, and maintain a modest and stable speed for better results. Follow the gear change indicator for correct upshift or downshift speeds. Drivers should be aware of the safety issues about that practice and the strong impact on emissions. A conservative driving style without abrupt transition in the vehicle's speed will lead to lower emissions, as high accelerations are often followed by intense braking. More specifically, the following rules need to be followed. High accelerations are to be avoided. Frequent but small accelerations are preferred, especially in urban environment. Frequent accelerations are to be avoided. At high speeds, high acceleration considerably increases emissions and should be avoided wherever possible. Avoid high acceleration, which is often followed by strong decelerations. Consider potential traffic congestion or other incidents that can occur on the road and may lead to sudden deceleration. Use the engine brake instead as much as possible. A higher attention of the driver will reflect a higher use of the engine brake to slow down the vehicle without using brakes. When traveling downhill, engine brake is to be used to prevent acceleration and high speeds. This is especially relevant for HDVs because when they carry heavy loads, trucks gather considerable momentum. Using the engine brake limits down the emissions from brakes and tyres as the vehicle can decelerate more smoothly and emit less. Use a lower gear when driving downhill or when there is traffic ahead. This tip is relevant for trucks with manual gearbox. Higher speeds lead to higher emissions and more sudden decelerations. Respect the speed limits always, and adjust speed levels taking external factors into consideration, such as weather conditions like wind, rain, and traffic conditions. Do not drive faster than 30 km per hour with the windows open. Driving with the windows open at high speeds increases aerodynamic drag on the vehicle, resulting to an increase in fuel consumption. As they spend much of the time in their vehicles, professional truck drivers will often be driving with the air conditioning on. Thus, windows should not be open while the air conditioning system is on. Use heating and air conditioning selectively to reduce the load on the engine. Decreasing use of the air conditioning can reduce fuel consumption considerably. Park your vehicle under the shade instead. The truck driver should follow the manufacturer's manual and the regular visits to the garage, which is usually defined by the manufacturer and the fleet operator's policy. By checking a few things, such as the engine oil level, the tyre pressure, and going to the garage the soonest possible after a malfunction is detected, a driver can play an important role in decreasing emissions. All those recommendations are a result of research done in the framework of the Modales project. You should always care firstly about safety and use those recommendations wisely wherever applicable to protect the environment by decreasing your vehicle's footprint. Further information about Modales, its activities, the partners and recent news is available at modales-project.eu.